What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Panthers advice. Today, man, we got a lot to talk about, from potential edge rusher joining the Panthers to Dave Canales in the press conference. And this is the one part with Dave Canales where I'm like, I don't know what to think with him, right? Because it was the same thing we saw last year, and we saw the team performed, and he's doing the same thing again. Let's jump into the video. So NFL insider Jordan Schultz reported Sunday that the Carolina Panthers are among the top 3 teams that have shown interest in acquiring Hendrickson from the Bengals. Now, that sentence alone, it kind of shocks me, right? The Carolina Panthers are among the top 3 teams that have shown interest in acquiring Hendrickson. The reason that shocks me, I mean, one, for a few reasons. The top 3 in anything. I don't think we've been the top 3 target, when it comes to getting a player the last 2 years for anybody, right? The next thing to think about is getting Hendrickson, right? So you just got Scorton, you just got Princely, you signed Patrick, right? You have DJ Wanham, Patrick Jones, you still have DJ Johnson. I mean, you have quite a few edge guys, and for the Carolina Panthers to finally step up for Hendrickson is a bit shocking. We're talking about more why in a little bit, but that sentence alone shocked me. Let's keep it going. That report came Sunday after NFL Network's Ian Rappaport and Tom P suggested Hendrickson could be on the move. With contract talks at an impasse, the Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson. Now, maybe here's why. Maybe the Panthers are trying to get him for the low, right? They're trying to get him for the low and seeing, okay, is there a chance we can get him without giving up too much? We're going to talk a little bit more about this as the article continues. So it goes on to say, Schultz added in his report that Carolina's 2 biggest competitors for Hendrickson are the Browns and the Colts. The Panthers, Browns, and Colts are among the teams that have shown interest in trading for Bengals All-Pro Trey Hendrickson per multiple sources. An in-division and in-state trade is highly unlikely, and any deal will be tough regardless. So what does that tell you about the in-state trade in division? That the Bengals won't be trading with the Browns unless the Browns are going to give up quite a bit, which would be very, very silly. But maybe that's what the Browns do, right? So Carolina or Indy? I could see Carolina winning. Now, do I want the Panthers to win? This is a complicated answer, to be honest with you. But even with all that being said, all right, a Hendrickson trade to Carolina might be even more likely after the Panthers lost rookie edge rusher Nick Scorton, right? The second round pick left practice Thursday with what the team initially called heat exhaustion, but ESPN's Adam Schefter reported Saturday afternoon Scorton is dealing with a collapsed lung and is not expected to be ready for the regular season. Now, when you phrase it like that, you start to kind of see where the Panthers are coming from, right? Being a top 3, potentially a top 2 contender to get Trey Hendrickson. The Panthers could bolster their pass rush with Hendrickson and have the rookie slowly work his way back behind the All-Pro. Hendrickson began his NFL career in the NFC South with the Saints, all right, posted double digits for the first time in 2020. So to wrap all this up, right, let's look at all the points real quick. I'm shocked in general that the Panthers are a top 3 team for Hendrickson compared to almost every other person who's been a trade candidate the last 2 years, right? Because we're loaded up at that edge position. And I won't say loaded, right? But you drafted Nick and Princely. You got Patrick Jones, you got DJ Wanham, you got DJ Johnson behind them. That's the most depth we've ever had at that position, it feels like, in the last, 5 years, give or take, right? You look at the safety position, the cornerback position, and you're like, why aren't we addressing that? Now, I'm not saying that there's anybody out there of Trey Hendrickson's level, unless you want to go Jalen Ramsey, and I don't think Ramsey is what Trey Hendrickson is now. Not to say Ramsey wasn't at one point, right? But he's not on that now. And the Panthers were really never linked to Ramsey, other than a few articles talking about Evero and Ramsey and how close they were. That was about it. So to see the Panthers actually be a top contender for Hendrickson's a bit shocking. On top of that, I look at it like this, right? Go back to the Ramsey thing. Why weren't the Panthers contenders for him, right? Julian Blackmon, so on and so forth. Look at the age. So Hendrickson's 30 now. He's going to turn 31 in December, which means his contract will really start when he turns 32. Let's say they do a 3-year contract, he's going to be 35. You look at Brant Tillis, you look at Dan Morgan, you look at Tepper now. I have a hard time believing they're going to give him, 1, a fat contract, and 2, also trade to the Bengals. So you have to do 2 things for this man, Trey Hendrickson. How likely is that? I got to say, to me, it's a sub 10%. Would I like to have Hendrickson on the team? Yes. But I don't want to give up the core of what we have now, right? Because as you can see, it takes a while to rebuild and you're going to make mistakes, right? So let me know your thoughts on that. What would it take for you to give up to get Hendrickson, right? Because you got to remember, you have to give up something. He's going to turn 31 this year. Contract will really start when he turns 32. Let me know. All right, now let's talk about Dave Canales right here in the press conference.
Pass protection had been a little better in that second series. Mike Price had played a third series.
It had nothing to do with that. I just felt so good about the work we got in the joint practice, the volume.
I'm not going to lie. When Dave said that about being happy with the joint practice, right, the reps the offense got in, it reminded me of last year, right, where Panthers, they played the Jets with Aaron Rodgers and Trevin Wallace, and somebody else picked off Rodgers too, right? And everybody was happy about the defense, and Bryce Young did his thing. And then what happened week one? Week one, when everyone was healthy, Derek Brown was healthy week one. What happened? The Saints, right? The Saints, the same team who completely struggled that second half of the last season, right? Did a number on the Panthers. Did a number. Everybody else basically smacked them, though, right? But they did a number on the Panthers. Go to week two. Chargers. A number on the Panthers. Not just offensively. No. Not just offensively. Defensively, too, right? Both of them completely excelled, right? And then Andy Dalton comes in, goes off against the Raiders, and what happened after that? So when Dave talks about, they look good in joint practice, I want to believe him, right? But after seeing what happened last year, I don't know, man.
You said you're really happy about what went down in the Browns room practice, Texas room practice, and all that stuff, and that the starters are not going to play. And then you brought up the fundamentals. How do you think you can hone those fundamentals behind the scenes? Maybe a casual fan wouldn't have.
Let's talk about that real quick. That's the other thing I want to talk about is the starters aren't playing week 3. So we're going off what we saw week 1, week 2. And I did a film breakdown offensively and defensively. Go check those out if you haven't already. But offensively, I felt like we weren't completely there. Now, you could play devil's advocate and say this right here. Do you think 1 or 2 more drives was really going to help this team out? And I'd honestly say probably not. You're right on that. Okay, but defensively, it's hard to say, right? Because you didn't have all those starters in there at one point. And the reason that makes a difference is because if you have Derek Brown in there and J.C. Horn in there, it changes the game plan tremendously, right? With Derek Brown in the middle and J.C. Horn, right? Because now the QB may not look at that receiver 1. He may look at receiver 2 right away, right? So that's going to be interesting to see, especially you go to Jacksonville. You got Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., right? And then you look at the run game that the Texans did. Not saying that the Jaguars had that O-line. But for Dave to be happy with what we saw in week 2 because of the joint practice, again, I go back to last year and how much it kind of scares me a little bit.
Practice is everything. That's what we preach to the guys. We practice full speed, all but tackling, and when we're in our thud tempo, like I want them hitting so that you show me you made the tackle. So we're getting the physical work. Iron sharpens iron. We got good players on both sides, and that's a great place to challenge it. The move the ball periods that we do in practice is another way. I'm asking our officials to really, really efficient.
So in theory, he's right with everything, right? Practice, makes everybody better, right? The officials, he's having them call every little ticky-tack thing so people are on top of things. The competition's better offensively and defensively. I get all that. But the thing to remember is this right here, right? And people talked about it, ironically, with the Panthers pass rush and CJ Stroud. And the Panthers didn't get a pass rush. No, they got a pass rush against CJ Stroud, but they couldn't hit him. And what does that mean? Why am I bringing that up? Because your whole mindset changes when you can't be hit or you can't be touched, right? Your whole mindset changes. You're like, okay, why is that a problem for Bryce Young? The reason that's potentially a problem, and I think it happened last year with him and Deontay Johnson, is when you can't be hit or you can't be touched, you're not as concerned. So you're going to wait a potential half second to make that extra throw to T-Mac or to Thielen or to Coker or Leggett, right? So it's not a real contact 100% because they're not going to hit or touch you, right? Maybe they touch you, but they're not going to tackle you. So when he talks about practice over game, I go back and forth because I go back to what I said earlier about playing devil's advocate. Would one preseason drive really make it that much better for the team? It's hard to say. Would I like to see them play week 3 preseason wise against another defense? I would personally, but let's keep it going.
Hit it hard.
So what do you glean from, specifically from Bryce, that you feel like he's better prepared to start this season than maybe last year?
In general, he's just done a great job leading the team, pushing the schemes forward. And, we get a couple of third down conversions. We extend the drives. We can get more into the calls. I would love to have another red zone shot, to kind of just polish off some of those things. But
right there, man, I don't know. He brought the joint practice again. Maybe he's seeing something that we're not, or maybe he's seeing something that I'm not personally. I don't know. When I watched that defense against Cleveland, right, against the Texans, and maybe it's just how Avero plays, where he wants to play everything safe, right? But even the offense, it wasn't clicking completely. Like, there was always something not going right, right? I would love to see them play week 3, but maybe Dave's onto something, man. I don't know. That's my only thing with him when it comes to preseason is the team never looks complete, right? So, we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. A lot more content coming soon. Panthers Devices out. I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.